I just, I don't know. I had a lot of people, friends and donors that were strongly asking me and encouraging me to get involved. And again, when I talk about, the leadership, I don't want to infer at any point that's not reflective of anybody previously. I don't mean that. What I mean is it felt different with President Carter and his style and Ronnie and so I decided, so much of it is about timing in life. Our children are a little older now, and we still had additional goals, and UNO will get those done. But we had gotten a lot done, and so it just felt right, Sam. It felt like, and I love this place, my alma mater, and I want to help. I want to help. I'm just going to do my little part. There's nothing magical. There's nobody's, but we're also not entitled to success here. Has to be earned, and I think that perspective, we'll go to work. We got great people here. We can do this, but it isn't going to be overnight, and it isn't going to be easy. But we're going to really focus on the fundamentals and mechanics of how we operate. It's attention to detail and work habits, and it's been done in the past. We'll do it.
What team of him is that right now? Like what department at Nebraska? What teams already are doing that in a way that you're like, I want more people to do like that?
Well, that's a loaded question, Sam. You're really good, aren't you? You must have went to school for that. It's unfair to all the programs. So I would hate to identify, but we all just went through, Will Bolt's success in the baseball program, and I love the confidence, that they displayed in terms of how they competed, and it was very clear that was a team that was together. When I told Will this morning, I said, his hire of Rob Childress, to me, is indicative of a coach that's very secure in himself, right? It's about how do we find the best help we can and go out and find a way to win. I think that says a lot about his leadership and what his goals are. But I don't want to just say it's in the baseball program. It's across the board here. But there's areas, obviously, that we can make an improvement. But I would just say just because it was the latest and we all sort of just went through it, I would say I had a keen interest in the baseball program and what Will's done.
What was that? I know this is sort of simplistic, but how much of this job was it? How much of an attraction was it that you actually get to lead a department that has football?
Oh, I think that can be overstated, Simple. I love football. I miss going to football games, so I'm really excited about that. But I like leadership. What really gets me excited is to go to work with a small group of people that you care about, identify a problem, solve it, and then celebrate. And then we move on to the next thing. And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy doing. But clearly, football is, especially when it's your alma mater, it's at a different level of importance. So. Yeah.
Hey, Trev, how much did you talk with Ronnie and Ted in the process about growing Nebraska's relationship with the Big Ten? Ronnie mentioned the Big Ten at the end. Obviously, last year there was a lot of opinions out there.
Well, I think it can be pretty natural to say, well, things aren't working out. Nebraskans don't run from challenges. We confront them. And so the Big Ten is an extraordinary conference with aspirant institutions across the board, not just in athletics, but academics. And so we need to do our part. We need to do our part, and we can. We've proven it. And so we'll just keep working. And the Big Ten needs Nebraska to be successful, and I believe that Nebraska needs the Big Ten. So we'll keep working and developing those regional rivalries, and when success comes, suddenly being in the Big Ten is pretty awesome, right?
How big of a priority are the struggles in the two top sports, men's sports, football and men's basketball? Is that something that you drill down on immediately, or how is your approach on that as a leader, Trev?
No, in all honesty, Sip, those conversations never came up with Chancellor Green or Ted Carter. They were looking for leadership. I think there's a strong feeling that while the pace of progress you could debate, nobody is suggesting that the leadership we have isn't the right leadership and that we aren't on the right trajectory. I'm really excited about this football season. I'm excited about what Fred has going on and Amy and the rest of the coaches. But obviously those two programs engender an awful lot of interest because of how high profile they are and the coaches, but we'll dig in across the board, and again, we'll just work together.
Another sport or program that tends to not get a lot of questions because it just kind of handles itself is volleyball.
Sure.
But at UNO, you also had experience with that team growing. How do you continue to offer for a team that sort of is already so good, continued leadership and help when you look at evaluating the volleyball program?
Well, listen, I mean, John's an outstanding leader. I'm not foolish. We'll be supportive of John. My goal is to help, and I can learn from John Cook, and I can learn from other coaches. Right? I don't have all the answers, so that's why we'll do it together. But John has proven for a long time that he understands what it takes. But people often forget it is way harder to stay at the top than it is to get to the top, and so you have an incredible amount of appreciation for John. So we'll do what we can to help ensure that the volleyball program has what they need, and that John needs to make sure that they're competing at a real high level. It's extraordinary what our volleyball program here has done. It is literally it's the North Star for volleyball nationally, and our fans have helped make that a reality. You look at recruiting, I think he's got the #1 recruiting class coming in. If you don't think that a sold-out Devaney, and that's why we need to get back to having our fans, right? Because that's what sells Nebraska. And so I'm just really, really proud of what John's done.
Trev, it's been 10 years since really big decisions you made at UNO. It feels like history's proven you right on those. Do you feel like you leave that athletic department in a place that it would not have been if you hadn't had to make those difficult decisions that long ago?
Yeah, Sam, I mean, we hope so. Obviously, our goal was to, again, just like I said about Nebraska, is to make decisions and recommendations in the long-term interest of UNO. We had to create stability, and I wish we wouldn't have had to do what we did. The reality is, I love football. We don't compete in football at UNO anymore. And wrestling the same way. Our chancellor was one of the biggest wrestling fans. So it was unfortunate. But the reality is I think UNO is in a great position today. There's been over $100 million of investment from the private community and donor support. So part of it is creating a vision, selling the vision, and executing on the vision. It wasn't just my vision. I don't unilaterally sit in the office and come up with ideas. We engage the right people about how do we move UNO forward, and ultimately, tough, difficult decisions have to be made. But we are, and the same thing here. We will not be paralyzed in fear in decision making. So many times it's easy to identify the problem, and sometimes executing on that is where the rubber meets the road, right? We won't always be right, but we'll have the courage to execute. We'll have the courage to do the tough stuff as long as it's in the best interest of Nebraska. And if that's our North Star and supporting student athletes, that's, I think, what's really important.
There's a certain value that comes into play when you think about making decisions like the one you made at UNO before it has to be made and waiting too long and it not working out. What's the value in knowing how to stay ahead of the decision-making curve the minute you see it, being able to call it, versus seeing it, waiting, and then not?
Oh, you can wait for the decision to be made for you, and then you don't get to control it. Or you can proactively look at solutions. Instead of losing 2 programs, we didn't lose the whole department. And quite frankly, we were trying to save the entire athletic department. Again, we would have liked to have had all of our programs be able to move forward. But the UNO athletic department right now is doing extraordinarily well. Great people. Coaches are doing very well. This past year was the most competitively successful UNO athletics has ever been at Division I. And so I'm really, really proud of them. They'll continue to do great stuff.
Have you missed the daily cadence of being around the sport of football? I mean, I know you've been busy for the last decade with other stuff, but I mean, you grew up in that environment.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, you love football, but I'll be honest with you, I love competition. Mm-hmm. I can have just as much fun at a women's soccer game in a shootout beating Denver we did a few years ago, right? So I just love to win and being a part of watching coaches and students do something that's extraordinary. So, but yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, football is it's a wonderful game, and it teaches you a lot, and you learn a lot. And a lot of those lessons that I learned from 1989 to 1993 have been just crucial and instrumental in helping navigate through, my leadership journey. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward, not just Scott, but all the assistant coaches and working with them and again, earning their trust. We're not going to have coaches here that coach out of fear. Nobody wins. We're all on the same team, and we're going to fight for each other, and we're going to create those types of relationships that are sustainable long term.
How well do you know
clear,
Scott
Trev,
Frost? How well do you know Scott Frost? How much do you guys have you talked since he's been in Nebraska head football coach?
Yeah, I've talked to him several times. You know, I didn't play with Scott, obviously, so our paths didn't cross there. But I've seen him at events, whether it be at a teammates gala, and so you know, a real mutual, I think a mutual respect for one another. And you know, Scott expressed to me privately his interest and desire and support of having me in this role, and wants to go to work together, and so that's my perspective as well. I think Scott is a tremendous football coach, and I think he has a lot of great football coaching ahead of him. And my job is to maybe help on some of the periphery, allow him to do what he does best. And again, it's really hard to say what those things are. I don't know. I haven't. But we'll dive in, and first and foremost, we've got to establish trust. And when we have that kind of trust, and it goes both ways, coaches need to have the trust to tell me that, you know, what I'm doing is not helpful. Because if I'm doing something that's not helpful, I want them to be successful. So we got to earn that together. And we'll do that. That'll be the first order of business, and then we'll dive into some of the granular details of how we can better support all of our programs.
Just to be clear, you weren't interested in this job the last time around when they hired Moose?
No, my interest level, I didn't pursue. I did not. I just felt the timing wasn't right, and there was, you know, so I just no.
So what changed so dramatically, or what changed?
What changed is a lot of timing. Our family's in a different position.
Okay.
Some of the things that we were working on at UNO were accomplished. But I mean, I'm a huge believer in Ronnie Green. He's my boss. But Ted Carter has set an incredible tone for the University of Nebraska. And Ted Carter's an incredible leader. And there's something about it just felt different. So. And I got to know him a little bit. He happened to be a hockey fan, so he'd come to some of our hockey games. And I got to know him, and I got to watch how he interacted with the other chancellors and his leadership style. And I believe he's an authentic leader, and I'm willing to follow Ronnie Green, and I'm willing to follow Ted Carter. Okay. And that's important.
That's big. Okay. Thanks.
Who do you think should be the next UNO athletic director? If you were to make a recommendation?
Well, I did make a recommendation, and I don't want to break any news here, but I'll be meeting with our staff at 4 o'clock today, and they will be communicated what the plan is going forward. So,
how can you help Scott that's different than the other 20 head coaches from your experiences?
You know, that's a really good question. I mean, I think part of that is spending the time to develop the relationship, to understand what his challenges are. Right? I mean, we all just understand the football stuff, calling plays, but that's really not, there's a whole lot more to it than that. And so I hesitate to talk about specifics about areas I'm going to help because I don't understand what those are. But I know I will be all in to helping Scott and that staff be successful. It's important to the university, it's important to the state of Nebraska, and he needs to know that I will be all in to supporting his success.
Trev, how important or how much did your student athlete days here will help you and has helped you in understanding the culture here when it was up and down the athletic department back then pretty strong?
Yeah, the culture piece is really important to me. I mean, I didn't know it. None of us knew how privileged and blessed we were to live this culture. Everything I said today is not my original thought, right? That's what I experienced. Every single member of the athletic department staff was valued. It didn't matter who you were, what role you played. Everybody had to operate at an elite level, and they felt valued. And again, I'm not suggesting that's not the case today. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what I believe in. And the unity of purpose piece. And I think it's really important that we can say all the right things, right? And you know what? Had some feedback from the executive staff and head coaches today prior to the announcement, and that was part of the feedback. They're looking for authentic leadership. You can say all the right things, but do your actions match the words? And so that's why I said I may have the title of athletic director, but I'm not necessarily the athletic director. I've got to earn that, right? Just like I said, I'm willing to follow Ted Carter. I have to earn the right for our coaches and staff to be willing to follow my leadership. And that's not done, but I'm committed to doing that.
Great job.
Thanks, Trev.